Hello and welcome to the March 2024 demo of the Society of West Coast Artists. My name is Jim Stinger. I am the president of the SWA, and we have these demos every month except for December. And so it's one of the things that we do as a nonprofit, and we provide these demos to you free of charge. And they are recorded, and you can get to them on our YouTube channel. So you are able to watch previous demos as well. So I just wanted to say a little bit about SWA. It is a membership organization and a volunteer organization. So we need members and we need volunteers. And if you are neither one, then we would like you to do something about that and become a member or become a volunteer, because this society cannot exist without its members and its volunteers. So today, our featured artist is Jim Gleeson, and I want to tell you a little bit about him. As an artist, he's multifaceted, proficient in many mediums, and his work is collected worldwide. A graduate of the Academy of Art University in San Francisco, where he has been on the faculty for 22 years, his work reflects both academic discipline and creative artistic freedom. In the studio, as a local San Francisco artist who specializes in local scenes of San Francisco, Jim's studio is located in his home in Bernal Heights. He converted the downstairs space into a unique studio gallery where he paints and teaches. As a native San Franciscan, Jim is focused on the many aspects that make his city special. He paints well-known spots and the unique areas of the city that appeal to many locals and visitors as well. And we are going to get a treat from him today. He's going to paint a local San Francisco landmark, and I will turn it over to Jim to do that. Thank you, Jim.
Jim, thanks very much, and I really appreciate it. I'm going to paint the landmarks called the Balboa Cafe. If you guys are familiar with it, it's down off near Lombard Street in the kind of the Chestnut Street area. Great restaurant. Love the sign. This was one of the first signs that I painted when I started. I have a few series that I do. I paint like San Francisco sign series. I paint a lot of landmarks. I paint people of San Francisco. And then I do a lot of commission work. My website's www.jimgleeson.com, and Jim Gleeson's got 2 E's. Okay, that's enough about me. Let's talk about what we're going to do today. This is a print of an existing painting that I already created. And when the society asked me to paint today, I thought that this would be when you're doing demos, you have to think about how long something's going to take and such. This is a high degree of difficulty for a demo. Why? Because it's a lot of lettering. Lettering takes a little while. The way that I'm going to approach this is I'm going to paint this painting kind of what they would call inside out. So I'm going to paint this lettering first, and everything else is going to come out around it. You can see this. You guys can see this. This is a maul stick, and I put this very, very high technology in here. This is a hanger, and I tape it on there, and I can hook it on stuff. And when you're doing oil, you can't put your hand next on the surface, so you need something to do it. And I'm going to hook it on to certain things, and I'm going to do, so that's how I do lettering to keep my hand steady. And I also use, lettering brushes to do that. And they're longer brushes. And the paint that you use when you're doing, now everybody does it a little different, but the paint that I'm going to use, I'm going to have the paint kind of thin, kind of liquid, kind of in a liquid form. And I'm going to put the black in. You can kind of see up here, I already covered the Coca-Cola and a couple of the detail areas with a real thin layer of white paint that's wet. And I'm going to go into that with darker tones with these liner brushes. And then I'm going to put in the large shapes, and I'm going to probably end up with the sky. And you can see the sky. So I mix up the sky, and it's already mixed, right? So, and I try to mix enough that I think it's going to be on the painting. So I don't mix my paints as I go. I mix my paint, and I never took a painting class, and it might not be the best way to do it, but I look at what I'm going to do, and I say red, white, and blue. That's pretty much what this is today. And I say dark and light. How much do I need? And I like to pre-mix it because I find and it was just the way I always did it because I taught myself how to paint. And so that's kind of what I do. It is a bit unorthodox, but I'm a bit unorthodox as well. So let's get into it. I also like to paint sitting down. So some people paint standing up. I usually paint sitting down. The paint that I'm using is I'm just using Winton oil colors for these demos. I usually have big tubes of, I use the Utrecht sometimes. And I'm just dipping my brushes in a little bit of thinner. And I'm not using black yet. I'm gonna use black a little later, but I'm gonna mix a little blue and a little brown together. And it's gonna have a little bit of white in it. I don't know if you can see that. And you can see it's about the consistency. And it's just kind of a dead color, but it's dark. And let's see. So I want to get Balboa in. So I'm going to drop this in first. And a lot of people, when you do lettering, a lot of people would paint I remember when I was first doing the signs, I would paint the outline of I'd paint the background first, and then I'd paint the letter. But I've found it's a little bit faster to cut around with the white after, and I don't have to be so perfect with my lay-in because I'm going to clean up with the white when I go around it. So I kind of cut my letters in. So you can kind of see, you can what they call rough the letter in. And I do a lot of like neon signs they're pretty labor intensive. A little bit about my process with this painting. So this is what I'm doing for this demo. It's called a painting from a painting. So I already painted this. So I have a pretty good idea of the process and what I need to do. And that's going to speed my process along when I'm painting. But I want to talk to you about this, which is a print. And the original painting that I derived this print from was 36 by 36, very high detailed oil painting, done in a traditional way, using oil, and it probably took 50 or 60 hours to do. And the way that I got this composition, and it was a full shot of the cafe itself, had people eating and dining, and you could even kind of look through the windows and see people in the cafe itself. And I sold that, and so I resell a lot of my stuff through having prints done. So after you make a painting, my process is I always photograph it, and I try to photograph it as well as I can. Get good lighting, get everything else that's good. So you can see, you can kind of rough this in pretty fast. And this maul stick really helps I also have to hold it over here to balance it. But what happened with this was I was doing an art show and I had not sold the original painting. And a woman came up and she goes, I really like this painting. I don't want to buy the original, but could you make a print of it? And I just want the sign. I don't want all the people and everything else. And I said, sure. And so I quoted her a price, came home on my computer, cropped it, sent it in. I use a company called Easy Canvas, and they're quite good. They're only as good as what you send them. So, make sure you send them a high resolution image if you're going to get things done. And they're reasonably inexpensive. And so I was able at that show to make a sale from something that was, that I was going to print. And, and I use Venmo. And so she Venmo'd me the money and I got the print done, dropped it off with her, very happy. So with the technology that's available today, many of us you can make sales, you can make additional sales, from requests people do. So, I would acclimate myself to that. So, a couple of minutes, I got this laid in. I've got so I'm also the type of guy who wants to save paint, and I hate cleaning my brushes every 20 minutes. So I've got black on my brush and kind of a dark color on my brush. So I'm going to put this in now over here. And I may use a little bit I might use a little bigger brush in here. And I'm just gonna kind of lay this in quick. I'm not too worried about runs, drips, or errors, really. I'm just going to kind of drop it in. Many of you are familiar with I'm just kind of blocking this in. I'll lay this in. And then when I come in with the outside, with the paint from the outside, I can cut all of that, and it just saves you a pretty good amount of time. See, the other good thing about, make sure if you decide to use one of these mall sticks, you can see you can kind of use it as a liner brush too. So you can use it with the liner, and you can use it kind of as a ruler. So it's a kind of a fun way and an effective way to get your work in. So you kind of get the sign laid in a little bit. So I got a little blue on my brush, and you can see kind of around it, I'm going to make a kind of a green. And I'm going to keep using this a little bit. So I just had to make this thing, I just had a dowel. And I just attached attached a handle to it with duct tape. So, genius. Absolute genius. And I don't know how old this is, but I've had people come in the studio. I have a little studio that I paint out of, and people are fascinated by this. They go, "What is that?" And I got to tell them a big story about the mall stick, and they love it. And they see me doing it because I do these sign things all the time, and they see me doing it, and they're going like, "Wow!" They're fascinated. No, that's not me in manufacturing. I am definitely not a builder, as you can see. That's a great question. I can give you an answer. Mall means to paint, but initially it means painting with blood. And that's where that came from. And I think the Dutch started using it, and so that's kind of how it was derived, from what I understand. So as I lay this in, I'm leaving a little of the white of the canvas coming through, and you can see why I did for this demo. You can see why I did a pencil drawing, because this is kind of detailed, but when you have that drawing, you have some kind of a map. So I'm gonna leave that edge a little bit light. And now I'm gonna clean out my brush a little bit, and then I'm gonna move over, do the Coke sign. And I'm gonna kind of get rid of most of the stuff in the middle, all that detailed work. And again, I mixed up a red, and I mixed up a warm red, and I mixed up a darker, a little bit of a cooler red. And I can kind of see the Coca-Cola over there. So I got a warm side, light's coming from the kind of that left side, but you can see the control you can get with this stick. I mean, don't underestimate the tools you use. I mean, it's super hard to do this just by hand, you know, without that. So, and it takes, and if you can't do this the first couple, like if you try this and you can't do it the first couple of times, that's because it takes a while to get used to doing it. So, so you can practice doing it. I can kind of see what's going on. So I put a little paint. I put a light coat of white paint in there because I didn't want just the raw canvas underneath. So this is all that detailed work. But the beauty of this is when you apply the red over that, you get a kind of you get a real painterly effect, which some people, yeah, it's wet. I just put it on today. So I'm gonna drop this in. So that's a kind of a little warmer red. And I can come in and I can clean it up. When you're working, try to get it, you know, as clean as you can. And definitely remember to spell Coca-Cola correctly, because that's a problem. There's always a lot of people out there that'll say you didn't spell that right.
So Jim, we have a question in chat.
Oh, sure.
When you have prints made, are they giclés?
Yeah, these are a giclé canvas print. I think that is what that process is.
Yeah, it's high resolution reproduction.
Yeah, they're good. They're nice. They do a pretty good job over there. So this little area is a highlight. So I'm going to leave that. Come in like that. This brush is a little too big to do the drink thing. So now what I'm doing is checking my work, and that arc wasn't too good. So I'm cleaning it up a little bit, because when I come in and cut around, I don't want it to be, too bad. There's going to be a little reflected light on this side of the Coca-Cola sign. So I'm going to continue with that warm red over here. Spin it around. But I can't tell you how much easier it is once you get used to using a stick how much easier it is to actually do this. Now, this paint right here is a little too thick. So I'm thinning it out. I'm just thinning it out with thinner. And so as I look at it, I'm gonna come in now. I'm gonna come in with this, a little bit of this darker red, cooler. So it's a cooler red. So you can see how that goes. And I'm going to blend those together. So I'm working in there. So I'm getting, you can see I'm getting the main difficult areas in first, so I can evaluate the paint, how it looks, and work it from there. Yeah, and great point. Negative shapes are really, so you need to think positive and negative shapes when you're painting this stuff. I really have a great respect for the people who made these signs and designed them as artists. I know, I really do. I mean, I think some of those neon signs that I paint, I just think they are like, all I'm doing is copying what a really good craftsman has already done. And the design that they've done is, I mean, I just really appreciate that craft. And it's kind of, and you know, unfortunately, a lot of the signs that I painted, they're gone. A lot of them are, you know, people will come up to me and go like, hey, you know, I bought a painting from you, and that place is gone. And so, you know, some of the stuff that I paint is kind of, I mean, it's kind of history. I kind of consider myself a little bit of a history painter. I'm trying to paint, you know, what I experience when I'm, you know, lucky enough to be here. And I just kind of wanted to, that's some of the things that I like to pass on. So I got that. And that took, what'd that take? That probably took 15 minutes, but a lot of the painting is done now. So get your arm a little bit. So you may get a little bit stiff. And remember, when you're in that position, it's better to not take a break. It's better to finish what you're doing, even if it hurts a little bit. Because your arms are going to be up and you got that. So what I'm going to do now is, so this is a liner brush. I don't know if you guys can see that. Can you see that, Jim? Yeah. So this is a liner brush. This is a little bit more, it's a little finer of a brush. So I'm going to take a little of this red. I'm going to mix a little orange in it and go up and see if I can get this drink in. It's a little more detailed, and I'm a little older now, so I can't see short as good. So I have to I have to put my spectacles on now. And again, I'm painting the negative spaces. And if I attempted to paint this the other way, I'd be here all day. So this is faster. Look at that. I did that in about a minute. And I'll tell you a funny story. There's a great artist. His name's Carl Jensen, who I met at the Academy. He's a great artist, great teacher. And he was watching me do one of these signs. He goes, I go, Carl, this is killing me. I go, this is taking me forever to do this. He goes, just because you're doing it backwards. I said, what? He goes, paint the letter, the body of the letter first, and then go back and he goes, cut around it. And I go, oh, wow. So the next painting I did, I tried that and got it. And it must have taken, I would say, half the time off of the initial amount of time. And remember, you know, if you're painting for money, time is money. And I do a lot of commissions, and I don't want to spend a ton of hours on there. So this is a rough lay-in. So I can take this brush, and now I'm going to kind of work. I'm going to work the color. So now I'm going to work that beautiful Coca-Cola red, and I'm going to fix up the surface of the paint a little bit until I get it so I like it. And you got to keep Coca-Cola happy, because this is one of the great logos, and it's and it was a handwritten logo from back in the day when people could, you know, write. And so I'm going to come in, I'm going to clean this up. This is a focal point in the painting, so you pretty much, you want to make sure you get it pretty what they would call tight, and not have anything that looks absolutely terrible. So I'm coming in with a little thicker paint now, and I'm going in and cleaning up. Those of you who paint in oil will relate to this. So that L, I may want to fix that cursor a little bit. So you got to kind of come around, and you got to look at, so you're painting it, your arm hurts, you know, you're hungry, you got all, but you're, you know, I want to paint this sign, you know, hey, nobody told me to do this. I chose to do this. So, but look what that color does. Look, so this is a stronger body color. Again, I don't have to mix it. It's already mixed. All I do is, because could you imagine me trying to mix while I'm doing this? Drive you mad. So that's why I pre-mix when I go in. It saves you time. If I need to change the color, I can change it a little bit, but it's nice to have, and mix more paint than you need. That would be another thing that I would say for anyone who wants to do this painting business. Don't mix a little bit and go, that'll be enough, because it's never enough. Trust me, it is never enough. I may not even have enough here, but and it's hard to match. And then somebody will go, you know, that one area. And there's always somebody that does that, and we love them.
We know who created the logo originally.
The Coca-Cola? Oh, God, I used to know that name. It was a doctor, because Coca-Cola used to have Coke in it. It had cocaine in it, and it was, but I think the guy's name was Pemberton, if I'm not mistaken. Georgia, that's right. That is correct. And they are doing fine. Sugar water. It's a great stock. That's another art. Buying stock. So now it looks kind of juicy now, right? So that's juicy oil paint. And you want to keep that. This is juicy. This ain't juicy yet. Okay. So and juicy's thick. You usually put it reasonably thick and get it going. And so that looks pretty good. So I'm going to need to work the negative spaces in here. and this is going to make it look more realistic. And a little bit more finished. I'm going to shoot to get as finished as I can today. Sometimes one of the tricks with doing signs is you paint the inside a little darker than the outside. So in here, I'm going to make that a little darker to push that letter out. And the outside is a kind of a warmer tone. I may put a little variation of color, but look at what I can do with this thing, right? I don't have to touch anything. I also do not have any paint. I don't have any wet paint here because, man, that really restricts your movement when you're doing detail work. So those of you that are doing detail work, and you know, this again, I can't tell you how great this stick is. So Norman Rockwell, one of my favorite guys, he had a stick that he used to use. Okay, so we got two signs that are shaping up. So now I got to clean my brush. Yeah. Uh-huh. Oh, does it? Yeah. Modern technology. Let's see. It's pretty strong. It's pretty strong red that I'm using. It's actually the red. Some people. Well, this is another thing I was going to talk about. I was going to talk about color, and I was going to talk about how they how they name the colors. So let's see what I don't even know what the name of this is. This is cadmium red deep U, right? So to me, this is dark red, cooler, a little cooler red. And then I mixed in cadmium yellow, which is a warm red, which is a warm yellow. And I just mixed those together, got an orange. So I don't look at the names on the tubes. I only look at the color. And I have a very limited knowledge of names of all these colors, but my palette's fairly limited too. So what I need to do now is I think I'm going to work this area, and I may take a little physical break and put the sky in. Sky's going to be a little easier. So I've got let's see, I've got a big amount of blue. Always mix two blues for sky. The lighter blue. I usually mix a little more of the lighter blue than of the darker blue. And you can use a lot of blues, but I used I use a cobalt for this. It's a cobalt blue, and I just mixed a ton of white with this, a little less amount of white with these two. And I'm going to just put it on like that. I usually start in the left-hand corner, upper left. I'm right-handed, so I work right to left. People are like, so what? Who cares? It matters. It matters to me because you don't want to work into yourself when you're doing it, right? So hopefully I won't do it. And I'm consciously making this fairly thick. I have a little bit of what's called this medium in it. It's called liquid, and it'll dry. Liquid kind of dries it a little faster. And I'm conscious that I want brush strokes. I want to see the brush strokes. Sometimes when I paint, my skies are flat. I shoot to get them super flat. I'm not going all the way up to the edge here yet because I'm going to put a little white around the Coca-Cola sign, and I still want to cut in. But basically what I'm doing now is I'm taking a break physically from doing all this detailed junk, which I'm not thrilled about doing, but you got to do it. Patina means the surface of what the paint looks like. Make sure you've got a, when I put a patina or a surface in, I shoot for consistency of the brush stroke first. Notice this was too thin when I put it in. I had too much thinner in the paint. So I have to go back and I have to make this look a little bit better in here. I got to kind of beef up the strokes. Otherwise, the patina or surface of the paint is not going to look as good as it should. Also, I'm smoothing out any real rough areas. I try to do it as I go along. So something like this, an area like this, I don't like, that's a little too thick. So I'm kind of smoothing those down. I have a tendency, and I catch myself all the time when I'm painting. Sometimes you get like some gunk in your paint. You get like maybe something that comes from maybe from around the edge of the paint where it dries, and you get it, and that comes from not keeping your materials clean. So it's and I'm guilty of this as anybody, but it really helps, and it doesn't take that long, is after you finish a session painting, take a little thinner on a rag and just go around the edges of your paint tubes, and man, that will help you. So watch me cut this in. Right? Okay, anybody can do this. It's just people don't do it, right? That's the thing. It's like, that's not hard. Watch, let's do it again. Oh, this brush is loaded. Great point. This brush is heavily loaded. This brush has been drinking for days. So I'm going to come along. So this one's tricky for me. Some people are really good vertically, and some people are really good horizontally concerning the stroke that they're going to make. This is harder for me to come in this way. I probably should stand up, and I'm doing a demo, and I told Mr. Singer that I'm going to sit down. So I'm going to do it, and it's okay.
All right.
Pretty steady, steady Eddie. So now, this is crap in here. This is terrible, right? So now I got to come in, and I'm not going to come in with this brush. I'm going to hold off on this brush. I'm going to take some of this and put it down here. But this area is tough to work. This area is going to be hard to work because it's a little bit smaller. So I'm going to just come down here. And again, I'm the type of guy who I don't like to waste paint. And it drives me crazy to clean my palette. It's like, oh man, I'm losing all this money. I'm losing all this. Look at this. This must have been 30 cents. It doesn't make any sense, but that's me.
But Jim, we do have a question.
Yes.
Why did you use positive painting on the letters of the Balboa Cafe sign and negative painting on the Coca-Cola sign?
Good question. I'm going to cut around the Balboa Cafe, and I'm going to cut around this with white, and I was going to do that next. And these are easier letters than these letters. These letters are a little bit harder to do. And I don't know if I mentioned it, but I already laid in a thin coat of white paint over the letters of the Coca-Cola sign, and I did not do it on the Balboa sign. But good observation and good question. Okay. So I'm going to use a little bit of a kind of a medium, maybe half, what is that, a 1/2 inch brush. I'm still just using the light blue now. But I can manipulate this color a little better with this brush. And I just want to achieve the kind of the same stroke consistency around it. And I'm getting, so you see what I'm doing now? See that area that was it was just too flat. But I didn't want to go in with the big brush because I didn't feel comfortable creating that edge with that brush. This is the method that I'm using is a feather, kind of feather edging, which means you touch the canvas, but you kind of lift it off of the canvas, and it creates a feather edges. Anybody who's painted in a ceiling in your house will know that feather edging is an important way. You can learn a lot from house painters. House painters usually load up with paint, and they work the paint into tricky areas. That's kind of what I'm doing. So again, I got to do the kind of the sign steps, and I'm going to pick up a little of that paint. I'm going to get stuff like that. That's happening. I can go like that. So I'm just cutting these edges in. And I'm going to go down. If you do it in one step, you get less problems. You can go right down. But that don't work if I don't have a lot of paint there, because I'm using this paint that's on the canvas already to help me. So you get a pretty good little edge, and I don't really mind that too much. Yeah. So this is a little stroke, and I'm going to kind of come diagonally here when I move that across the canvas. So this is kind of a tricky area. I gotta lay that in, and then so I already put a little white in here. Along over the detail areas. I hate this stuff on buildings. That's one of the things that I hate, that, and I hate windows. To paint it. I mean, I can paint it, but I don't like painting it. So there's things that you don't want to do. It's like, I'll tell my wife, yeah, I'll be up in 3 hours. I have to paint windows today. And she laughs. So that, there's things that in a painting that you don't want to do, but you have to do them, because if you don't do them, the overall look of the painting's not gonna look good. So you'll have your window day. Sometimes what you listen to, or what if you have window music that you can put on, or grass music, it's different. Again, I'm going to just pull that down. So
you did not use white paint underneath your sky, did you?
I did not, no. But you can, so that's the old Bob Ross. That's the Bob Ross magic white method, right? Which is, I love Bob Ross. That guy had the best voice. So I'm just coming in. If any of the edges, so you can't get everything with a brush. And that's why God gave us the palette knife, right? So if you've got something like this, you got to get rid of it with the palette knife. And believe me, I've tried to get it with the brush, And it takes me 25 minutes to get it with the brush, and a palette knife, I'm done. I get any areas that don't look good. So, learn to use the tools that you have around you, and you can see why I wear gloves, because you don't want, if you paint as much as I do, and probably as some of you who are watching this, you don't want this stuff going in your liver, whatever it is. I don't know what's in it, but I know it isn't good. Most of the time, most of my work is photo generated. I've done plein air. I don't know. Plein air is a lot of work. It's hard. And it's an entirely different animal. I may start doing it a little bit more, but I just have not gotten around to doing it. I've done it in the past a few times. I'd much rather paint in my studio. It's just, I'd just rather do that.
Second question. If you were painting this without, not demoing it to people, where would you take a break in any of the process of what you're doing right now?
That's a good question. Yeah, like maybe right now I'd probably take a little break, because really what I have to do next, I have to do this detail area, and then I'm going to drop the whites in, and then I'll probably be close to being finished.
And in one day, session or a couple sessions?
No, the paintings that I do in studio, they're usually between 30 and 60 hours. So yeah, I can't. Well, they're usually bigger. So this one, this original was 30 by 36, and it was detailed. It had a lot, it had people in it and all kinds of stuff. So for a demo like this, I had to break it down. But like I said, that lady really helped me. I just want the sign. I go, that's a good idea. That'll look good. And it does. So I'm using the stick again, because the stick is your friend.
Well, taking a break also gives you a chance to get away from it and look out fresh.
Yeah, you have to get away. You do have to get away. And the other way to check your work is, have your wife look at it, and that'll do it. Or put it in front of a mirror, or take a picture of it. And then that'll be another way that you can determine, how well it's progressing. I'm going to take a little of this white that I already have mixed up here. I got a big bunch of it. And I'm going to work, this is going to be fairly thick. But this is so I like to get rid of the easy areas. So this is an easy area. This is just going to be white. I may mess around with it a little more later, but I'm going to put that white on. And you can see this is an area. So there's areas of complexity and areas of calm. And in the areas of calm, I like to use maybe more interesting patina or brushstroke. And in the areas of complexity, which are complex enough, I sometimes keep that flatter. So that's just something to think about as you're going. Here. I'm going to try not to mess up this beautiful Coke sun. So a lot of people don't think of that. Some artists are like, well, what's he talking about? Areas of complexity and areas of calm. These are basically flat areas, but if you give it a little texture, it kind of looks good. That's what I've found anyway. Yeah, so this painting is going to be a little bit, quote, more painterly than this one. This one's the original painting, I did it kind of the traditional way where you use brown, thin brown paint in the I did an underpainting. I let it dry, drives you crazy. And so I did it that way traditionally. Did a lot of glazing on it, and it gives it a different look. A painting like this has a more spontaneous look with the brush strokes. So you're just laying in the paint. That's all you're doing here. Try not to mess up your circle. So that is an edge. So always have a towel or a paper towel near you, especially if you're working in oils, because invariably these oils are going to get somewhere you don't want them to be. So again, I want this area to be fairly thick impasto. I brought some stuff. They got some, where is it? So this makes your paint thicker. It's called impasto medium. So if you want this paint to be super thick, you can add this to it. I don't think I have to do this today. I think, for this painting, this paint will be fine the way it is. But sometimes, and that impasto, it kind of makes it dry a little quicker. So I straightened out that sign a little bit. So as you're painting, look for any areas that you think maybe would need a little bit of improvement. So I fixed the perspective there, dropped in an edge. So I'm going to come in here with a little, I want this one edge along here to be a little thicker. So I'm just adding a little more white paint. And in order to make it a painting, you got to get rid, if you have pencil lines, just make sure you don't see any of your pencil lines. So I'm going to get a nice edge there.
That's interesting. In watercolor.
Right. Sometimes pencil lines are great in watercolor. Absolutely. But yeah, oil's a different animal. It's a totally different animal. So now I'm going to come back to the little guy. And I didn't forget about that lovely edge up here.
That little guy is probably what, 4 or 6?
Yeah, I think I like, I don't know what it is. I got tape on it, so I'm not sure what it is.
It's probably a quarter inch.
Yeah, it's probably what is that, a 4? Yeah. And I love this brush. So these brushes are not expensive. They're not fancy brushes. But if you clean them, they last a long time if you get a pretty good brush. I'm really trying not to get that red in the sky. So there's a few things you got to watch. I don't want that red anywhere near blue, because that's going to change the whole ball game. So you got to be careful. So that works. So now what I did was I locked that sky in, and I'm looking at it. It looks pretty good. Not really, I'm not unhappy with it. And again, I'm going to work a little bit more on the patina. This side, I may want to put a little bit of into the white. I may want to put a little bit of a like I make a little magenta, just a dead purple. So this is, I mixed a purple, I mixed a little blue with a little red, and I put it into the sky color. And I'm going to drop that in like that, and just going to kind of drop that in and maybe have a little over here. And then I'm going to work it. So I'm going to come back in with the white brush. So I keep the paint on the brush, and then I'm going to come in and I'm going to brush it out a little bit. So that's one method you can use. Why did I do that? Because that white looked good, but it was a little too flat. So I just wanted to break it up a little bit. And these are aesthetic decisions that as an artist you're going to make, right? And then, so that's a kind of a light shadow, but I may want to put a couple of flicks in there. Maybe I'll. So now what I'm doing is I'm working the area, I'm working the negative space area. I want to soften an edge. And this is making it look a little more what they call painterly. So you see those paint strokes that you've got. And I'm kind of just working down this painting right now. And this is not what I saw in a picture or anything. I'm just making this up now. And I'm thinking of direction also. I want to drive the viewer's eye into the Coca-Cola sign. And so one way you can do that is with a linear stroke. And it's very subtle, but you can drive the viewer's eye into that by putting, and I like using diagonals as opposed to using horizontal or verticals. So you can see what I'm doing, and it's a way to direct the eye so that people don't look at the Coke sign and then look that way. I want them to look this way. So I'm directing the eye with a pencil stroke. So I picked up a little red there because I didn't use my stick. Okay, see what I mean? When you're lazy, like that, that's lazy move. I'm going to put that down at the bottom a little bit. I'm going to stripe that later. And now I think I'm going to just take a step back and take a look at it and see what I've got. See how it's going. It's looking pretty. Yeah, do you guys want to take a little break? Let's take a 10-minute break. I'll clean my brushes and I'll finish it up.
Okay, gives you a rest.
Good.
Are we on?
Oh, you guys can come up and take a look at it if you.
No.
All right. So welcome back, everyone. I'm going to put some of the dark detail work in down here. And I'm going to change this. And so that's one of the beauties of being an artist. You get to change from the painting that I did. So in here, I made, this is kind of gray. I think I'm going to make that shadow that's in there. I think I'm going to make it a little more on the purple side. So I'm going to drop that in. I am going to use the stick. It's a little easier right now to use this stick because it's lower and it's not killing my arm. But you can see it's kind of a little bit of a gray. And I'm just going to put that in, block it out. I'm trying to follow. There was some light bulbs in there, I think, for time constraint. I'm going to get rid of those. You can do that too when you're an artist. Unless your client said, "Where's my light bulbs?" Okay, that's the other thing. So now I need to use kind of the medium. This is a rigger brush, and I'm going to use, riggers are great for lines. The other brush is more of a lettering brush or a liner brush, but these riggers are great. So now I can kind of see this, and I'm just, so this is not really in perspective. This is going to be just kind of flat. It's going to be fairly evenly spaced, the shadows on the on the detailed part of the molding that's on the building. So that's what you want to remember. So something that's flat when you're looking at it in perspective, you're looking square at it. There's not going to be a lot of difference in size. Whereas when it's here, the areas that are going away from you they'll get a little smaller. So that's all you want to remember. And you know, you don't have to be perfect with this. I know that's
Plus, how high up is this, Jim? You know, things that you're painting right now.
how high what? Yeah, I was looking up because I was on the ground. So this is probably, it might be 10 feet and maybe even 15 feet. Might be 30 feet to the top of the building. Not sure.
Now, is this something that you would go in and make it darker?
Oh, yeah. And that's right. And the one thing if you were going to go in and finish, you'd let it dry and then you'd go back in and you'd put the dark shadows in the kind of in the shadow area. I'm not sure if I'm going to have time to do that today. Yeah, but I mean the idea is, you can see that I wanted to get across to some of you is this, how helpful a stick is. So I'm going to do this little detailed stuff in here, and I'm just kind of interpreting it, but you can see how you can sculpt with the brush because you've got a stable platform to work from. And it's almost like you're just drawing with the brush. And it's really helpful. So as I'm dropping,
Jim, you're just using your lighter brush.
this is just a, yeah, this is the rigger, number 6. This is a number 6 rigger. If anybody had a question on that. And again, I'm guilty, as a lot of people, of having what they call what do they call it? Riggeritis or something, is that I use this rigger a lot. Some people say it's a problem. Some people say a lot of things, but I love this brush. And this is an old brush. It's not super expensive, but I go through these because I used to do a lot of watercolor work, and I really used a lot of riggers in watercolor. And they're really, really helpful when you're using watercolor. So like I'm saying, so the distances here in my mind, I can sort of see my drawing, but not completely well. But I know enough about perspective. So I'm going to show you. So these lines, they're going to gradually get closer together. So that's how you can get that illusion of perspective. You could probably use a thinner brush, but I'm trying to keep these strokes as parallel as possible. And I'm just going to and they're going to get, as they go away, I'm pulling a little more white into it. And that's what's called atmospheric perspective, in that things that go away from us get lighter and paler in value, and things that are a little bit closer to us have more contrast. So I'm going to put more darks up in here. These are going to get a little bit lighter. Hopefully that's understandable for all of you who are not well versed in perspective, because that's a whole new lesson. But watch, come here, and with that brush and with this stick, I can really put my lines in. And the other thing that this stick helps me with is confidence, so that I'm not worried about, you know, running out of gas or running out of paint. So I'm confident I'm going to finish that line. So maybe I want to drop that off. And confidence is important when you're doing something. So you can see I changed this value, and I think it's for the better. I think this looks better than than the other painting. So if you paint something a couple of times, don't be afraid to make a change, because sometimes it'll be better. So I'm coming in here. And again, a little bit darker near the viewer, a little bit faded going away from the viewer. And I made.
Did you do any illustration work?
Yeah, so and it's a good question. So I was trained as an illustrator. So we learned all kinds of different stuff. And it's a great skill to have. And you know, somebody like Rembrandt, I was given another demo, and I was comparing Van Gogh to Rembrandt. You know, Rembrandt could paint anything. Van Gogh painted his way. And because he lacked the ability of Rembrandt. And you know, I'm not knocking Van Gogh, but you know, Rembrandt was the man in his day. That guy could paint anything, and he did.
He didn't have all the fancy colors that we have now. Dead palette.
Oh yeah, well, I mean, that's that whole dead palette, and what he was doing was kind of all about light, you know. And he died broke, just like Van Gogh. So there you go. Oh, he was a big star. This guy was he was the man, but he, I think he was extravagant, and but I mean, what's wrong with dying broke? It's nothing wrong. It's all right. It's not that bad. That should kind of be a goal. Yeah. That's,
You know, Jim, there are no luggage racks.
no, what do they say? You can't take it with you, right?
Yeah.
And that's for sure. So one other thing that I have to do, even if I don't want to, is there's darks up in here. So this is a dark within a dark. So there's this is a shadow, and I'm going to just give you, so some of that, you make this a little darker in the shadow. And this is an illustrator's trick too. So you make this a little darker. I mean, I think I'm doing pretty good in 2 hours.
Yeah.
Because this one is not an easy one. So I kind of wanted to challenge myself a little bit, and that's kind of good to do sometimes when you do demos. You know, you can do an easy demo and you can do a tougher demo, but for this group, a lot of people, you know, I love this group because I kind of cut my teeth on this group. So I wanted to do a kind of an interesting demo, and hopefully you guys enjoy it.
Oh, Jim, overall, you've only been working, even with the break, you've only been working about an hour and 15 minutes.
Yeah.
You know, you're talking on what, 16 by 20 canvas?
Yeah, it's a bigger canvas. So it's, you know, and then, you know, then you look at it and you say, oh, you know, I could do this better, I could do that better, but that's what everybody does. And that's what we're supposed to do. So you're supposed to look at your work critically after you're finished with the session. But the other thing I like to tell people is just because you're finished with the session doesn't mean you can't go home and paint it. So even if you're a plein air painter and you did a beautiful painting in plein air, I don't think it's wrong to go home and work on it more in the studio. You know, some people may say, oh, you know, that's not fair. It's not plein air, but you know,
Just as long as you don't screw it up.
there's no, that's right. That's right. And if you screw it up, just what do you say? As Craig Nelson would always say, I'll just paint another one.
Yeah, you don't want to lick it.
No.
So we have a comment here in the chat. It's admirable that you're doing lettering and perspective for your demo.
Yeah, thank you. You know, it's a challenge. You know, it would have been a little bit easier if, you know, if I did maybe a landscape, but this is what I do, and I can do it pretty fast, because I'm confident and I'm comfortable doing it. So this is the noodling, what I'm doing now. And this is noodling, and you either like doing noodling, and I kind of do. You either like doing noodling or you don't like noodling. If you don't like noodling, don't paint this stuff. Just paint something, paint a tree. You don't have to noodle as much. Although maybe you do, but you know, I really enjoy a lot of architectural stuff, but you see how, so what I'm doing now, this is called rendering, right? So rendering takes time. It takes patience. And, you know, after a while you get good at it. It takes a little bit of, I would say it takes some skill to do. I'm coming in now. So I got a lot of this in, and then I have a little bit of time so I can finish up. This is a kind of a trick. Let me show you. Some people ask for tricks. Let me show you a trick. That's why they pay me. So this is white right now, but I'm not going to leave that white. I'm going to make this a little darker, even if the building's white. And again, it's a kind of a flat area. I got a big load of paint on there. So this is the corner. So what I do with the corners is I usually make consciously, even if they're not darker, I make them a little darker. And so and this is one thing, I'm at the bottom of this painting now. So my horizon, so what I'm doing with my brush stroke is different than what I'm doing up here. I kind of want to drive the viewer back into the picture. So if I did any kind of stroke, I would do it either a direct horizontal, or I would have a little bit of a diagonal, but the diagonal is going to go back into the painting, whereas the diagonal up here is going to go down. When I put a little more of the blue in that sky to finish up, you'll see what I mean. So I need to understand where the light is now. So now I'm getting a little bit more concerned with the light. Light's coming from over here. So this is a darker side of the building. And so this edge is going to be a little darker. I have no paint here. This is an important edge. So I'm not going to mess about with it right now. So I'm coming in to drop this in. If I make this dark like this, I pretty much am obliged to make a lot of this side fairly dark, because that's kind of how the light is going there. So you see what's happening here? So these are decisions. You know, I sort of did it there, but it's better here. Drop this in. I can soften this. I can soften some of this, but if I soften it, I'm going to use this direction to soften it. I don't want to use this direction. And I'm doing that to create that visual sense of depth and distance. So you guys see what I just did? And atmospheric perspective, again, I'm not going to mess around with this too much, but again, I'm getting lazy. I'm getting a little tired, so I don't go to the stick. You got to go to that stick. And I want to clean up a little bit in here, and I'm going to add a little more dark paint. So I'm really loading up on the brown and the blue now. I'm mixing those two together, and I'm going to put some darks in here. It's not black. Black's a tricky color. So this is a little more on the brown side, but it's a nice color. And it really goes along with that gray. And when I mix it into the gray, watch what happens with this cast shadow. So I'm going to drop this cast shadow down right along that edge. And I purposely left a little bit of white, a little bit of an edge of the white there. That's an illusion. That's reflected light. And it's there. And there are rules. There are pretty stringent rules in perspective. But remember, your job is to know the rules, and then you can interpret the rules as the case may be. So look what that's doing. So what am I doing? I'm setting up that edge, huh? And now I'm not going to make this side as dark, but so I'm taking that loaded brush into wet paint and go to the edge there. And I screwed that up. Okay, so you can say that to yourself, just don't say it too loud. Don't say that around clients. So same thing. Beauty of oil paint is it will get a little lighter as it picks up some more paint. So I am getting stuck here on that edge with this easel. So what I would do to finish this painting when it dried, I would touch that up. Oh, that's right. So a little edge there. And again, that was thought of when I thought to do this demo. You got to think those things out. So in here is some darks. I got a few darks. And some more dark. And now I'm working into wet paint. And when you're working into wet paint, you can't lay it in too much. Like you can't do too many strokes. You have to just lay it in and see how it goes. So and again, this stick, I can't tell you, it really, really makes your life easier.
You got about 15 minutes.
Thank you. So you can see what I'm doing in here. So I'm shooting. So now I just got the call from Jim, the timer, and he said, Gleeson, pick it up. You got to finish. Watch this. So this is going to be so I need this a little bit darker edge. In here. So I took a bunch of blue and I popped that in. And I'm going to pull that down like that. And what is this? I'm just giving the illusion. It's just an illusion. You know, when people walk up and say, how'd you get that? That's a compliment. How'd you do that? Don't tell them. So this is darks. This is dark in a dark, right? So that's important. This edge, not so good down here. back to the stick. Line that up. And then,
There's no sound. We can't hear you.
Did you lose all the sound, Jim, or is it just me?
Your particular microphone, the lapel, I think.
I can hear now.
That better? You better?
Is there sound now? Yes,
There is sound now.
Good. I touched something. Sorry about that. So again, I have a little more time, so I want to try and at least get a little paint around the bar sign. Again, I'm using just a easy to handle square, kind of square tip brush. Real cheap.
The white you're using, is that a titanium or is it mixing?
You know, I'm not sure.
You don't care.
Not really. I never read the labels. It's bad.
Well, some of the watercolor tubes these days, you can't read the labels so small.
Well, they have some amazing names that they give some of the colors. And I remember I used to give a lot of demos, like, and people are like, "Well, are you using you know?" And they have some terrific name, and I'm like, "Wow, that's a nice name." Now, I don't know. It's like, this is red. It's like that, but that's me. You know, there's different types of people. There's some people that are very left brain, and they need to know, and that's okay. But that's not me. So I'm trying to get rid of as much of that pencil line as possible.
But it also kind of looks like paint that's peeling off the sign.
Yeah, and it also looks like sometimes this technique is a little different than this technique. This almost looks like you did it on purpose, you know. So
And you probably are one of those who believe that you don't want to make it too perfect because then everybody stares at it.
yeah, I mean, that is a really good point concerning photorealism. Do you want to make it a painting or do you want to make it like super photo? I mean, I've done things that were super photo and I don't always like them as good as some of the things that I did that are more, a little bit more painter. I mean, I try to make it look like the photograph, but I want people to know that it's paint. So there is a fine line to doing that. As some people really want it to look super realistic, and that's very valid, and that's a great skill to do. But I'm not. That's not my intention. So I'm running out of time here. So I'm just trying to get.
You got another 10 minutes, so.
Just trying to get as much of this, these pencil lines out as I can.
What kind of pencil? Standard number 2?
Yeah, I just had a yellow pencil. At least I knew that color. Ticonderoga.
There you go.
There we go. Well, there's always such fancy drawing tools.
Yeah, I have a jar.
Too many choices.
I have a jar of pencil, and some people, there's a reason some people use it. I'm just not intelligent enough to realize what the reason is. It's just, I just grab a pencil and when it's there, I use it.
So would you ever use thinned out paint to lay it out?
Yeah, I do. So for this painting, that's what I use. So I use an umber, like a raw umber, and I use 3 browns when I do I think they call it a Versailles or something, underpainting.
Yep.
So I use a dark brown, like burnt umber, and I use an umber, and then I use another kind of a lighter ochre. And I put the sky in with ochre, and then I put my lights and darks in with the umbers, and then I let it dry, and then I put body color in, and it's like it takes longer. It takes longer than doing this. And I think this might even look better.
And so you mix your blacks. I'm sure you don't use pure black, or just mix.
I will use blue. That's good. That's another good point. I will use pure black if I'm doing somebody's shoes and they're black. I'll use pure black.
Okay.
And I use black. I use black because I saw a bunch of sergeants, and the sergeant used black.
Yeah.
And he was good. And if it's good enough for Mr. Sergeant, it's definitely good enough. Yeah, I was just in Boston at the Gardner Museum. And
What museum?
the Gardner Museum. If you go to Boston, you have to go to the Gardner, but the Gardner's hard to get into.
Really?
So it was freezing when we were there, so it's no problem. But I heard it's hard to get tickets for the Gardner, like in higher season. So research that. It is a place you do not want to miss. It's a great museum. One of the best museums my wife and I have ever been to. That I like, and I like the Frick. Because I'm into that type of painting. Like American painting. There's some whistlers there. He was a nut, I think. But he was a good painter. I like those. All right, let's put some sky in. So I got about as much as is going to matter for that sign, and I cut around the lettering, and I like the way that lettering looks. It's got a loose, kind of a loose feel to it.
Step away from the lettering.
And now I want to take a little bit of a bigger brush, and I'm just going to adjust the sky. You know, depending on what you feel aesthetically for your work, this sky is fine. I mean, but I like to add up in kind of up in the corner, and look how thick this is. But this is really fun. This is like decorating a cake. So I'm taking this stuff is thick, and it's been sitting for a while. So what I like to do is put that thick paint on, and I'm keeping in mind the direction. Where is this thick paint gonna benefit? And where's this value gonna benefit me? It's gonna benefit me down in here a little bit. As it's gonna kick out the side of that building. Take that. And then I can kind of, if you want to make clouds, you can make clouds, whatever you want to do. I've got a real weird edge here. Again, that's the same spot that other edge was. So I want to take that up with that palette knife. Don't fool around with this with the brush in there. Just don't do it. And I'm blending now. So now I'm going to blend in. I'm going to blend in to the existing impasto lighter value paint. And I'm just going to soften it so that it isn't, you know, super. And down in this corner, maybe make it a little darker. It's a nice neutral blue. It's not, this blue is not too dark. And I don't know if you can see it on the camera, but that's one of those bad things that I get every once in a while. And I just saw it, I'm taking it out. That is from maybe the side of the paint that's going on up there. Yeah. Come across. So I'm going to blend this out a little bit. When you're doing a more of a finished painting, this process takes me, it might take me an hour to paint out the sky. I just don't have time to do that now, but I will paint this sky all the way out, so that each one of those kind of brush strokes look really pretty good and blend in. So I'm going to come in here, surround the painting. So I'm making it a little bit darker, and it, looks kind of good because it looks like a kind of one of those robin's egg blue skies. A little different than this. This is a little heavier blue, but you can break it up.
Maybe they should play this.
Yeah, it might be a little more contrast. That's right.
Did you use maybe was that really a cobalt on there?
It was. I think it was more of a phthalo. So I'm getting that, and then I may want to put a little edge up in here. And that's going to kind of push the building out a little bit. So it's so now I'm happy because now I went through all the crappy parts of this painting. All the stuff where it's like, God, it's terrible. The hell's going on? This looks like crap. And now it's like, ooh, I get to finish this, right? Now it's looking good. Now you start saying to yourself, hey, I'm a good artist. Instead of, oh boy, this stinks, right? So, and there's points in a painting where it's supposed to look bad. And it does. I mean, paintings don't disappoint. So if I'm going to do anything, this is a fairly colorful painting. But I may want to put, so at the end of a painting, and this is again kind of an illustrator thing, I may want to do one thing, and I'm going to take a little yellow. This is called spotting color. How can I do it? So I'm going to take a little bit of this yellow and my great stick. And I want to juice up this sign. Just a little bit of color. And you don't need a lot. But
So that's yellow with a little bit of white.
yeah. So maybe I'm gonna
Over the green.
over that green, and I may come back in and make it a little more on the green side. But you'll see.
Kind of make it look weathered.
Yeah, and it's that sign I think's been there, boy, it's been there long. And I just wanted to kind of put a little contrast. So that's real white. I'm gonna pop that. So a few highlights that I may want to put in.
So you're kind of enhancing the red green
Yeah,
juxtaposition.
yeah, that would be. And I also want to balance the viewer looking at the Coke sign and this. So I know that the Coke sign is more dominant. So I'm trying to bring in a little bit more color with this green, adding a little more yellow, just so the viewer will look over at the Balboa Cafe.
Punching out the chroma.
Yeah, it's punching up the contrast a bit. And
Looks great.
I think that's pretty good. Signature.
Yeah, sign it, sell
So we gotta sign it, sell it, and signature, I would probably do this signature maybe in a blue. Into the blue. Sign it when it's not wet. But if you sign your name, practice signing. I can't tell you how many bad signatures I see. They're just bad. And I'm probably gonna need the stick. And I would never sign a painting in wet paint, but
But you can go home and take them.
yeah.
or just straighten it off.
Isn't the frame gonna cover that up?
Maybe. I don't frame a lot.
Oh, you don't?
You use floater.
A lot of times I just paint around the edges, and if somebody wants to frame them, they can. I paint around the edges for this, but just thank you. Just wanted to thank you for letting me paint today for you, and it was a real pleasure. And I hope you enjoyed the show.
We did. Thank you so much, Jim. Yeah, great demo.
You got blue nose?
I didn't want to. You got. This is Jim. Jim.
Article saying, when they're completely dry and you haven't signed it yet, what you do is you put the liquid or your medium on the area that you're going to put your signature on, and then